Hello, everybody, and welcome to Community Cleric. I have the super amazing Sara with me tonight. I have been waiting weeks and weeks and weeks, and yeah, we're gonna do this. Sara, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited. You are looking fabulous. I have to ask, show me your tiger. What's going on here? Show me this moment.
Tiger.
Is it
Oh,
not
it's
a
a
tiger? Oh,
rose.
it's a rose. It looked
It's a
like tiger
rose.
ears, and then like the lines.
You
All
know
I
what
could
it
see.
does? Oh my gosh. It really does when it goes
Right?
like that. Wow. I never noticed that, but that is so true.
Hi, everybody in the chat. Thanks for
Hi,
coming
chat.
and hanging out. We're going to talk about vampire. We're going to talk a little bit about D&D. We're going to talk about your costuming choices because you, as far as I can tell, you pretty much always, when you're playing a game, it's in costume. I want to
Correct.
see your dice because that has become a running theme. We're going to talk like video games and stuff.
Yay. Ooh.
So let's start with Martlet, though. Let's start with Martlet Games because you are a creative associate, creative producer at Martlet.
Creative partner.
I'm a creative partner at Martlet Games. I hear you, I've heard you say it
It's all good.
25 times. A creative partner at Martlet Games. What does that mean? What does Martlet do? How did you get involved with them? Tell me more.
Sure. So Martlet started in earnest probably at the tail end of 2019. Basically, it was founded by my really, really dear friend Pat. We've known each other from over a decade. We met online through nerdcore hip hop. We were both performing that 10 years ago or so, and we were involved in this little niche world, and we wrote a concept album about Vampire the Masquerade, a rap concept album. We went by the Blood Clan, and the album is called The More Sanguinous. And so we did this whole thing. We were just such a good creative team, and then we kind of went in our own directions. A couple of years, he started, he had his kids, and I got married, and we kind of just did our own thing. So we got back together on the 10th anniversary of the album to remake it with professional beats, professional mixing and mastering, and all of that type of stuff. And that sort of dovetailed into, well, V5, the fifth edition of Vampire the Masquerade, just came out. I want to play. He wants to play. So we played a private game. He ST'd for my husband and I, like long distance, because we don't live in the same part of the United States at all. And we're like, wow, we just really love vampire. And we want to just come out into the community with something. And Pat, had all these ideas about doing actual plays on Twitch, and LA by Night was around. So we sort of were like, we can have something like that on a much smaller scale. And so we did two series. I mean, we were just little tiny, we had like three viewers, you know what I'm saying? Like it started small. We did two vampire campaigns, and then we got hooked up with Vancouver by Night when Pat went to be a cast member on Vancouver Adjacent by Night, and that kind of got really big, and that sort of fostered that relationship. So yeah, Martlet does TTRPG actual plays, and then we also do game development services. So if people are looking to develop tabletop RPGs, we provide different services like creative consulting. I do writing and editing. Pat does graphics and video editing. I've been trying to gain some of these skills as well, so I can also try to do it all because I like having all those skills in my tool belt, so to speak. So yeah, and so we've been doing Martlet ever since, like pretty consistently, with our vampire actual plays among stuff like 10 Candles, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what we do at Martlet. So creative partner, I
All the
do it all, you know
things.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I schedule, I edit, I do sensitivity reading, I manage the Discord, I
The things. All the things.
all the things,
Yeah.
all the things. So yeah,
Um,
that's
I
that's the story of Martlet.
I mean, the first thing that I have to say is like, there is so much brand new information. You and I have been playing together for
A
almost a
while.
year.
Yeah.
Like we're going to come up on a year of
25.
being planning.
25 sessions.
Najra just subscribed to my channel.
Oh, thank you.
Najra.
You're the best.
And Najra is part of how we know each other. Because we know each other because you play in my game. Your husband just did that too. Listen.
Oh, there he goes.
Listen.
We're gonna get a hype train.
We play IDM in a D&D long campaign. We're 25 episodes in. 2 character deaths already. We're like well into the seriousness of this. And I met you through Vancouver by Night because I had been playing in their other, well, at the time it was their first D&D campaign. And Mike, who's the DM for that campaign, was like, I really want to play. I'm just a forever DM. He was, he's a prima donna. Like that's a pretty good representation of Mike. And I was like, well, I don't know. I can DM. Like, it's not a big deal. I can do Lost Mines of Phandelver. I've done it before. It's not a big deal. But like, I only really want to do it through the summer. I was like, we're gonna do 8 episodes. Gonna be short form.
Yep.
And now we're 25 episodes and a full almost a year into this thing. And Najra plays with us. That's how we know Najra, who was on last week. Nope, 2 weeks ago. She was on 2 weeks ago talking to us.
Such a great interview. Check that one out if you haven't.
It's so fantastic. She's also a huge, I only play D&D. I do have the Star Wars D20. We should totally play the Star Wars D20 at some point.
I'm a Star Wars person, so hit me up. Like, I'm ready. That sounds fun to me.
We should play the Star Wars D20 at some point.
If you're okay having a Sith in your game.
I really only play D&D. You have experience, though, in a bunch of other things, including Vampire. So that's where the Martlet company came about, and your experiences come about there. Famously, in the channel that we play in, Vancouver by Night, you are very close to hitting what I can only guess based on the reverence and seriousness with which people talk about it, a huge milestone in that campaign.
Yeah, very much so. And it's actually coming up this Saturday. We did pre-record that one as we normally do, but my player character in Vampire the Masquerade is about to hopefully become Prince of Vancouver, which is like the leader of all the vampires in the city, in the entire city. I've never had a player character like reach this level of status in the game. I don't think when we started Vancouver by Night Delve into Darkness, I never necessarily envisioned this from this character. This was not something that I had planned, but the way things all shook out, it became this kind of strategy. So yes, Saturday we're gonna see if Steve the ST lets me become Prince, or if he pulls the rug out.
So I have to ask, because I don't play Vancouver, or I do play Vancouver by Night. I don't play Vampire.
Yeah.
What is like in character, like in the game, in D&D, if you gain a title or nobility or something, largely, like maybe a plot hook will depend on it, but it's not like you're not a co-DM, you don't get extra powers or whatever. My extrapolation of the situation is that being Prince of the thing actually and especially because you play like a fairly like a newer-ish vamp, like they all refer to Jude as like the little sibling, like the newer one.
Yep. Fledgling vampires, correct.
So like, what does that do for your character? And also, like, why would Steve say no? I guess was my other question. Because you guys are like, if it happens. I'm like, what do you mean if it happens? Like, it's a thing that's happening.
Right. So what's happening in terms of like the scope of Vancouver, the city, in this world of darkness with vampires there, is in Vancouver, there's a huge power vacuum currently. There's nobody in charge at all. And historically, the people that have been in charge have been ineffectual or absent, let's say.
Okay.
So The reason why it's like if I will be able to is because me as a player and as a character, I don't know who could also like the NPCs that are all out in Vancouver, the other vampire NPCs. I have no idea if they also want to be Brits. Because all you have to do to become prince is declare praxis, which is just like you hold a gathering, like almost kind of like a press conference, and you, assuming you have the resources to do so, which my character does because of like Mike's character and Cliff's character. They have like the resources, so they kind of helped push this campaign for my character Jude to become prince. So it's like holding a conference and being like, okay, I'm prince now, and that's the way it's going to be, and I'm going to pick my court, and then I'm going to be the leader of the city. And it's kind of just however the NPCs react. It's
Right.
like,
so okay.
Yeah.
So then my question becomes, because vampire is 100% about relationship, right? Like it's not like D&D in that there's like combat that gets rolled. I mean, I guess sometimes there is, but
there is, yeah.
But it's a lot more of like the role play and the combat, and like I've done some Twitch overlays for different vampire things, and I'm like, what size do you want your battle map? And they're like, haha, no.
We don't do that
nothing
here.
like that. Right. So yeah. So yeah, I guess my question is like, why would their characters, or why do you think, maybe as yourself or as Jude, why do they have like a hidden agenda? Is it just that they really like you and think that you would do really well? Or do you know why they're doing that?
My Jude's whole like campaign, like the whole like center, the nucleus of her campaign is that the things that were happening before in Vancouver, which like we had a huge incursion of like very, very evil, violent vampires that tried to like set everything on fire and stuff. Like I kind of just pointed to the historic leadership and was like, yeah, these were older, powerful, potentially elder vampires, and they either weren't around or they didn't do anything. So what we need now is fresh blood. It's a fresh perspective. It's somebody that's in touch with their humanity, because the closer you are to humanity, I mean, her thing is kind of the easier it is to conceal the existence of vampires, because I still understand the motivations of human beings, because I haven't been an undead monster for hundreds of years. She's been a vampire less than 10 years. So it's kind of like it's just a fresh perspective, and everyone is so exhausted. Like all the NPCs are so exhausted of the turmoil in the city that they're kind of like, you want to be prince? Like, yeah, I guess. Like,
as long as like the shenanigans are over, you just have to maintain order.
Exactly. As long as if you're coming in here and saying you can maintain order and you have the ability to do so, then yeah. So my character did drum up a lot of support.
That's awesome.
I would say.
I love that.
And so then it all culminates in the Elysium on Saturday, the Elysium being this neutral ground for vampires where you can't use your powers and you can't have weapons. And it's a meeting of our kind to bring matters of the city to the table, to socialize, and to play the political game, which I think is also what Vampire is about, is political intrigue. And in terms of another thing about like what it means for me to be prince, Mike's character says this all the time. The first thing it does is paint a target on my back.
Right.
So it is a dangerous position to be in.
Okay, so then that's such a good next question. You've segged me in so good. We've had 2 character deaths in Phandalin By Night, which is a lot for 20 sessions of play, I would say. Because you asked, like after the second character death, you were like, I have no I don't understand this. Is there player character death in Vampire? What does that look like?
There is. There is. So it's about a character meeting final death because a kindred is very powerful. They can't be killed by normal means. It's very specific.
Right.
Number one being sunlight.
Okay.
It's probably the easiest way. But there's also just like kind of your bodily integrity being completely destroyed will also do it. So yeah, if if you're not careful, especially if like the human world discovers your existence and then the vampires find out that the human beings know,
right,
they're basically like, well, you might have to be killed now, like forever, because you're going to give us away. So yes, player character death does happen. It's much harder because a kindred is so much more durable.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so much more durable than like say a D&D character.
Right.
Like there is just so much more, you can take so much more physical abuse as a vampire. I will say none of my vampire player characters have actually, that's incorrect. One of my player characters did die final death, but that was off screen and that isn't something yet to be determined. But that's down the line. It's far down the line. So that does kind of, it was kind of a special circumstance, but nothing like in an active game. I've never had a character meet final death, but it does happen.
It does happen. So is it something that you, and because we've talked a little bit on Community Cleric about safety and consent in gaming and why that is so important, and the fact of like character bleed, that sometimes a little bit of ourselves inhabit the character and a little bit of the character then inhabits us. And when something bad happens to them, even if it's not death or it's traumatic or scarring, it can affect us in our real world. And so we want to be very sensitive to that. So is player character death something that you would have spoken with about the storyteller like well before, if they're like, hey, look, I think this may be coming up, or you're like, I'm tired of playing this, let's axe them? Or can it just be shitty dice? Like one of the character deaths we had in the second episode of Phandalin By Night was just natural ones. Like it wasn't anybody's fault.
Totally. It definitely, it can be something that you talk about with your ST. Me, I go into any World of Darkness game just assuming that player character death is on the table, because the world is so dangerous with supernatural characters. And especially once you pit the supernatural creatures against each other, that's when it gets very dangerous for any of the supernatural creatures in the World of Darkness. But so I think I think most of the time it is just on the table in those games. At least that's how I see it. But it can be shitty dice, because if someone is coming at you with a stake, or now that won't necessarily kill you, but it puts you in such a vulnerable position. All they have to do is pick you up and set you in the sun, and that's it. You can't get out of that. It's an immediate paralysis. So if you are like, okay, we'll roll your dex and athletics to dodge the stake coming directly at your heart, and the person trying to do it rolls a bunch of crits, and you roll no successes, or you roll a bestial failure, then that's it. That's it, mama. Like that's it for you.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that seems crazy to me. In D&D, and part of the reason why I really plan on only really having women on this show is so we can talk about, some of the shittier stuff that happens to us as women playing games. But you do get these stories of like, and not just that it happens to women, it happens to dudes and non-binary people as well. stories of really bad GMs or really bad other players at D&D tables, does that kind of, are there those like toxic elements sometimes in World of Darkness? And like, how do you get past that? Like, well, it's my character, bro.
I would say, I mean, I have limited D&D experiences, as you know, so I haven't been at a ton of D&D tables, but in terms of vampire, I would almost say the World of the Darkness is more susceptible to
Okay.
toxic players because you play a monster.
Right.
And it does deal with a lot of um dark themes. There's a
Right.
lot of loss of agency. You're hunting
Right.
human beings. There's all of
It's
these
built
really,
in.
it's built in.
Right.
So it's you get a lot of edge lords in the World of
Right.
Darkness who are using this framework to act out, I think,
Right.
their worst and most toxic tendencies
Right.
as player characters. So I would say that World of Darkness is probably more susceptible to those kind of toxic players. And I think what goes hand in hand with that is, men coming in and wanting
Yeah.
to just flex their subconscious or conscious misogyny that
Yeah.
they're carrying with them. So it's a problem, though. I'll say, I think as time has gone on, as V5 has come out, as there's been a lot of brand activation for
Right.
vampire especially,
Yeah.
I think that we've come a long way in
Right.
vampire,
Right. Right. Right.
in terms of being better about safety tools, understanding how to handle these dark things like the debriefing and the aftercare after heavy sessions, really spelling out what the table is comfortable with and what they're not. They even
Right.
mechanically put that in the game as chronicle tenets in
Okay.
V5. And it's like, these are the ethical lines that we as a table will not cross, even though we're playing monsters. So they
Right.
even have that built in now. And the popular aphorism now for the World of Darkness is that playing a monster isn't an excuse to be one.
We were just talking about a similar tenant from cosplay last week when I was talking to Belle. We were talking about 2014 to 2016, a big movement of like cosplay is not consent to be a
Yes.
creepy person and go touch or make people uncomfortable. They're not consenting that just because they're dressing up as a character who, regardless of what they look like. So I love that. I wish D&D, I wish Wizards of the Coast, I wish Pathfinder, some of these other games would get on that train and be more proactive about it. I will say like D&D is starting to have those conversations, but I don't know how much of that is built in right now. I want to switch slightly and talk about, because you're talking about Vancouver by Night and Jude, which is set in modern day Vancouver, BC. But you storytell for a pretty epic game that isn't set in modern day times.
That's correct. I run a Vampire 5th Edition chronicle called London's Bleeding, which is set in 1918 London. Now going into season 2, it is 1919. We just passed the new year. But yeah, I set it right at the end of World War One. So it was pretty much started in November 1918, which is right after Armistice Day.
Right.
So I don't I don't know why I decided to make my first campaign I ever made for any game, let alone a Vampire Chronicle. That's my first time GMing ever of anything. And but I really wanted to do this period piece because I was a little bit inspired by the video game Vampire by Don't Nod, where their game takes place in 1918 London. It's a little bit of a flawed game. It's not like a
Okay.
AAA title, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? It's a smaller game. And I think it was kind of flawed. So I was like, I would love to use this setting, but port it into the Vampire the Masquerade universe
Right.
and use that lore and that environment
Right.
And that atmosphere. Now, I didn't take any story elements from Vampire, like that has
Right.
the plot is not at all similar, but I just really liked that setting. I liked that it was dark and grungy, and there was so much going on in the world that I thought it'd be so interesting to see what vampires would have been doing
Right.
then. And what they would be getting up to as the world is like so quickly
Rapidly shifting underfoot.
shifting
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I actually, because London is so huge, I like zoomed in even further. So I really, it takes place in two neighborhoods of East London pretty much.
Awesome.
But we do hit the landmarks, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because
Of
we're right
course.
by the Tower of London.
Right.
We're right by the Thames and those types of things. But yeah, London's Bleeding. That's the campaign that
And you
that
guys
I
are
storytell for.
just starting your next season.
Correct. Yeah, we're just about to, we pre-recorded, so we're just about to film season 2, episode 1, the premiere of London's Bleeding, and I'm so excited to get back into it. And it is going to be the last season.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and where can people watch that if they want to watch?
That'll be on Martlet Games. We previously were showing on Wednesdays, but I think we'll probably be looking at the schedule and seeing what day we think is best. Yeah. But yeah, Martlet Games, it'll be over there.
So follow the Martlet Games Twitter, follow Sarah's Twitter, and you'll learn more about that. Okay. Thank you for indulging me in all of my vampire questions, because I honestly, Ack and Foolish, who we play with on Sundays, Sean and I, frequently check in with each other to be like, on Saturdays when we're watching Delve into Darkness, like on Discord, we'll be like, do you understand what's going on? No, man, but they look really good. They do look really good. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Sean, good looking crew.
Sean is much more like trying to understand, and I'm several years like into watching people that I really like playing these games, and I'm like, they look so good, and I cannot. It's like cricket. I'm a college educated person. I have a 5-year degree. I'm working on a master's degree. Nobody will ever be able to explain the game of cricket to me, and you know what? I'm just okay with that. They're great looking guys that I can watch on mute. And that's good for me. Okay, so let's talk. I want to see your dice.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk dice.
So because we were just talking about vampire, yes, I'll go for those first. So vampire uses D10.
Lots of D10s.
Lots of D10s. You need 2 different styles of D10 for your regular dice and your hunger dice. You do need like 2 different colors or whatever. These are the typical proprietary dice. So red is hunger and black is standard. But I have these are the hunger die from Level Up Games, and these are specific to Vampire Clan Tremere. So you have this symbol. This is the 10. It represents the 10 on the dice. And Tremere is my favorite clan. They're the blood sorcerers. They're called the usurpers because basically a mage, a demon, some other people got together and were like, we want to be immortal too. The vampires can't have all the fun. And then through many unethical magical practices, they became vampires. So the bloodline, people don't like them. The Tremere are hated throughout in the vampire community and outside because they're considered to not have come by their immortality honestly, that they've usurped it from the sons and daughters of the biblical Cain, which is where you can, that's the lore, is that the first vampire was Cain.
You are getting hate in the chat about the Tremere thing.
That's what I'm saying. People hate Tremere. What did I say?
It's
people
visceral.
Hate Tremere.
It's visceral.
People hate Tremere. Well, and part of it, I mean, I think some of it is justified because, like I said, they experiment on people. They are ruthless knowledge hoarders. For the longest time, they existed in a very patriarchal institution called the Pyramid, which was like this super tight, like hierarchical structure that like prevented women from ascending pretty much at all. though V5 has some we're getting to
fixes.
some
Sure.
Yeah, the pyramid is crumbling.
Right.
The Tremere got messed up in V5, so everybody that was hating on the Tremere, I mean, our Vienna Chantry blew up. Like, I think we've paid the price. But yeah, so I love the Tremere. I only use these hunger dice when I'm playing Tremere vampires. I have 3 Tremere characters. So I use these only when I'm playing a Tremere. They're aluminum, so they
What
like
is
really
Jude?
have some heft. Jude is a Tremere.
Okay.
But she's a bit different. I call her the Brawlin' Tremere because she's this big brick house of a woman and likes to fight physically, but also knows blood sorcery.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a pivot on the trope of like the stuffy academic, which is a common Tremere archetype.
Right.
I'm trying to like read the chat. Yeah.
Oh man, they're on it.
Yeah, people don't like the gargoyles that Tremere make. I know that. People don't like that. Yeah, so that's it for these. I won these in a Vancouver by Night giveaway.
Aww, that's awesome.
It was really nice. And these are like the first like fancy like nice dice. So I really love using these.
In D&D, like the D20, the polyhedral sets are like, first off, they're big business and they're big money, and they come in every conceivable, like, and I get World of Darkness is like gothy and edgy and all of that, but if I wanted to be like, I've always just assumed that based on the other characters that I play, if I were to play in a vampire game, I would end up playing like a super lighthearted, fun, fluffy character. I don't know how well that would go over.
I was just thinking,
but I would want like bright cotton candy pink D10s.
Yeah, I mean, for the vampire dice, like you just need like 2 different types of D10, so you can really like wherever you would want to get them. I like using the proprietary dice because it just is fun.
Yeah,
but they don't make those
to them.
Yeah, but they don't make those in like a lot of variations and colors at all. Like Chessex isn't out here making vampire dice. Okay. So you can get them, like Level Up has a ton of vampire D10s. I'm trying to think, like other than them, like they're not like really like tons and tons of people making like vampire specific dice. I've seen some like homemade, a lot of homemade people just making them at home with their molds. But yeah, it is a bit more limited, but I would say if you wanted to, you would just get your pink D10s, just order a bunch of pink D10s and then pick another color to go with the pink, and then you're good to go. To play vampire, really, that's all you need.
I mean, I don't know how well that character would last, or that'd be like a one shot, like a one-time guest star. She just annoys everybody and they kill her at the end. I can imagine, because
you know what I'm thinking though, because you're like, what character would you play? I think you would make a great Salubri. They're a very, very rare vampire clan, and they're healers.
So you know what's super funny is, there was an opportunity that came up. You and I had talked about it, that somebody wanted to do, because I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. Somebody wanted to do a Halifax by night, and they knew that I played on Vancouver by night. I don't think they realized I didn't play in the vampire games, but they knew that I played on Vancouver by night, and they know that I'm from Nova Scotia. So they asked me to like consider joining, and I was like, okay. And so I immediately came to you and I was like, what do I need to know? And you were like, here's 3 things. Here's the core rule book. Skip the first 75 pages and just get right to the rules. Second thing you need to know is, you're going to need a bunch of D10s. Third thing, don't play a Salubri. They're super hard. And so I went on the World of Darkness website and I did like which clan are you? And Salubri was what I got.
Yeah, it is hard because their disciplines are not typical. So it's one of those things where it would be hard for a new vampire player, but just in terms of the character that you are described, because they're kind of like this outlier where a lot of them keep their humanity very high, and they do have a specific power called Obeah, which can heal emotional turmoil in people. They
have like a physical, they
have a third eye.
Yeah. So I figured she would be like a like me, like Molly Weasley was my kind of like source character, and she'd have like mom bangs to hide it. And she was
I
like a
mean, I love
secretary
this.
who had
Yeah.
cancer, and her boss was a salubri and didn't really want to lose her because she was so effective at managing his multiple businesses. And so he just turned her. I don't even know if that's a plausible thing, but that was like my source character. And then nothing ever happened with it. So if anybody
Yeah.
wants me to come play Molly Weasley in their vampire game, hook me up.
Damn.
Hook me up.
That's fun.
Okay, let's see. There's a whole bunch of comments. They're super hard because everybody wants to kill you. Which somebody then threw out some Tremere Shade and went, wait for it, is the Tremere's fault. Yep.
It is the Tremere's fault. That is true. I don't dispute that.
There's truth. There's facts in here. Okay, Molly Weasley on VTM. I would love that. So you're still showing dice. Please keep showing dice. What do you use for Grahja?
So Grahja, I use D&D Beyond currently.
Okay, you're using
I have not
dice.
actually rolled. I have rolled, I think maybe one time I rolled a physical dice for her, but I have a custom set. I put it on my Twitter. You can go back. That my good friend, regular size mom or mom sized, her name is Rosie, at Odd Duck Dice, had a tea blend called Barbarian Blend and was like, what if I put these in dice that were green? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I was super into it. So I just have to receive them whenever we can work that out. And I think I am going to start rolling the physical dice for Grahja. But she did make me a different set. Okay. This is a different just D20 set. This is like a really cool red, and then there's wine corks in the dice.
Is it like
so you can kind of see these little like yellowy or brown. So it's these, yeah. And so here's the, I think this is the D12. Yeah, it's this really great red, and then it has these pieces of cork.
The numbers are so big and like so clear to read.
Because my eyesight is bad.
I was going to say.
So bad eyesight. Yeah. Very bad. So yeah, the big numbers are also very helpful for me. So I do have this. I do have that set from her as well. So I have not. I might roll these for the one shot that we have coming up for Jasper's Game Day that character.
February 27th. I may roll
that.
On Vancouver by Night. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Jasper's Game Day, it's a charity that supports mental health initiatives for gamers and does really amazing work. And Vancouver by Night is hosting a 12-hour charity live stream. It's multiple games with some stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about under threat of pain and I'd probably just get a stern look, and it would disappoint me to the point where I would crack. But there's going to be some stuff coming out. I'm doing almost all of the overlays actually for the games, and I'm super stoked. That's going to be a lot of fun. And actually, right after this, I'm playing in Belle's game. Najra and I are playing in Belle's game, and we're going right into our character creation session right after this. So it's an epic level, 20 level characters.
I can't wait to watch that one.
Let's talk Grahja for a second. It was your first like long form D&D campaign. It is your first because we're actively playing on Sundays at 2 Pacific. How is it going?
I think it's going really well. I mean, I'm really enjoying myself. I was very nervous at first just because I didn't really know the mechanics that much. I don't know the lore. Is so extensive that I kind of just went in and jumped in and was like, okay, I'm just gonna figure it out. And I really have grown to love D&D a lot. Like I always look forward to it. It's such a different experience than Vampire. And there's a lot just more. I like the combat and figuring that out. I'm enjoying playing a martial class. I think that was the right decision for me for my first character instead of a caster. I think that I'm still very happy with that decision. I'm enjoying, the different items, the magical items you can get. I think that's so cool. But I'm having a really good time. I think it's going really well. Before Phandalin By Night, I had played probably 2 sessions of 3.5 7 years ago. And I played in one fifth edition one shot for Vancouver by Night. Um a charity one. That one was super scary, but because I just really jumped in because I was like a level, I think that was like a level 10 or
Right.
something character. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think the game has a lot to offer, and I can see why so many people really love
Really
it. It
love
just
it.
has so much potential, so many different great stories, so many different great existing modules.
Yeah.
Like it's so good.
Um, and so we're playing Lost Mines of Phandelver-ish. We've had some departures from the story, not that you would know yet, but we've had some departures from the story. But you play a barbarian, a half orc barbarian, who is like the opposite of the World of Darkness stuff. She is fresh off of like her family compound, and she's like the small town religious girl who shows up in New York City for the first time and is like adventuring in the wide world. And like the character growth that I've seen is so beautiful. You're killing it. I love that cast. You guys are all killing it.
What an amazing table. I mean, I
Yeah.
do really feel so lucky because everyone just brings something really unique to the game with their characters, and we have a lot of D&D veterans,
Yeah.
like straight up, like
Yes.
playing for so long. So, and they've always been so gracious and patient, as have you with a newcomer to D&D. Yeah, such a special table, and it has been fun developing out a character that isn't a vampire. Like I've just been having fun, like having a different perspective
Yeah.
and kind of playing a little bit of a like naive, not super intelligent, not a
Yeah.
cerebral character, which is always what I kind of always trend toward those. So I really wanted to do something different, and it's been really rewarding.
But even though Grahja is maybe not like the sharpest crayon in the box intelligence wise, so much thought goes in. It is hard to play like himbo characters. Like
Yeah.
it's
It is. It's hard to sort of be like, okay, I gotta not do what my like player brain wants me to do. Like
yeah,
I have to really think about the impulsiveness,
yeah,
the thinking before they act, this I think diametric opposition between barbarian bloodlust
yes,
and lots of, I think, compassion for fellow beings,
yes.
especially this kind of chosen family that she like pretty randomly got into
Yeah.
based on a job that we all took the same job. That was the only thing uniting us originally.
And I will say that like in my particular campaign and in this game that we're playing, I work extra hard or maybe not work extra hard. The thing that I value as a DM is making the world feel like it wasn't just made for 5 people who are rolling dice together on a Sunday. The world is very real. So for instance, you guys have just infiltrated an orc and goblin cavern, and the first character you killed, you guys looted the body, which was good, but he had like a little note thanking him for like his donations to the orc orphanage. And I
Oh,
remember
that was so
watching your
sad.
face and being like, are we the drama?
Yeah, are we the bad guys? Yeah, I think we've thought that a couple times throughout the campaign. Is like, are we really doing
But and
the
not
right
that
thing?
and there are definitely campaigns where the characters are the moral gray. Like Critical Role's second campaign was famously like they're kind of morally gray. But that wasn't the purpose of why I did it. It just gave you guys a different thought towards, oh, maybe maybe this isn't necessarily just about killing. Like, what if there's non-lethal ways of putting somebody down, or what, that this is a real thing? Maybe, oh man, maybe we need to do a charity drive and start raising money for this orc orphanage because we just killed one of their patrons. Like it gives you guys a hook to build more into the world. Thank you, Twin Dad Twitches and D Maple, for following. Hi, D Maple. It's nice to see you in chat. So Um, I cannot wait to see your Grahja dice. I cannot wait to see them. Um,
Me neither.
you've been a little bit of a storyteller. You've been a lot of a player in multiple different systems and worlds. Do you think you have the bug for storytelling? Like, do you think it's something you're going to want to do more of, or do you vastly prefer playing?
No, I really like storytelling a lot.
Okay.
I once I got over my initial
What was the fear? What
nervousness,
was the nervousness?
uh, I think it was always about like not having enough prepared and like dead air. Those were my two
Okay.
things because we're not at a private table of friends just fucking
Right.
around.
Right.
We're making a entertainment product, and
Right.
I'm very aware of that. And so I was like, I want this to be very compelling. I will say that I feel like I can admit this about myself as like a game master, is that while I don't think I railroad my players, I have a very particular vision as
Right.
to the things that happen in my game, and I think it's tolerated and enjoyed by my players because I spend a lot of time
Yeah.
making the world immersive, and the descriptions that I give and the emotional stakes that I set for the players. I think because of those things, my style is, whereas like, someone like Steve is kind of just
Right.
like has a
Go
more
for
just
it.
like improv
Right.
attitude for storytelling, which works.
Right.
But for me, it's like I am a bit of a planner, but I have started storytelling for another game that I'm working on, another short series. So I am in the seat again besides London. I would love to run games like Bluebeard's Bride, 10 Candles.
Awesome.
So I definitely want to get back in the GM seat.
I would
I would say
love to come play something like that
yeah,
with you, because really, like, my whole world is in D&D. I would love to come if you're ever looking for somebody. I'll
but
come
it's
play for you.
all horror. But
Oh,
it's all the games I know are
oh, you
horror. I
guys,
gotta
I
find something
can't.
horror. I gotta
I'm
find something
I can't
else.
do the squidgy stuff. I
I
can't. I
know.
can't do
That's
the
why I'm
squidgy
like, I
stuff.
gotta find a different game. Maybe like I gotta find something else that uses Power by the Apocalypse because I'm really comfortable with that system. So I'm like, okay, if I can find something that's not quite as grim
Yeah.
and horrifying for that. But I'd say I get different things out of doing both
Yeah.
both things
So,
GMing. Yeah.
first off, one of the things that you said was I'm a little bit of a planner, and I feel like we should redo your Twitch banner because you are 100% a planner. You
Yeah.
had me so intimidated before we started Phandalin by Night. You were like, all right, here's what we're doing. This is the situation. Where is the ad copy? Where, like, you had the thing going. And it was like, for me, it was other than Would Be Heroes, which I just kind of show up to and play in, because Mike does all the other stuff. I didn't realize like that was going to be the DM's responsibility to get all that stuff. And so and it was like the worst time for me to start a campaign. It was like the busiest part of my school year, to
Oh
do
yeah.
something. And I was like super intimidated. And I was like, oh my God, she must think like I'm such a flake. So it's been really good, like, to hear that you're enjoying the campaign, that you're enjoying what we're doing. I also want to say about the idea that DMs railroad players and maybe that's a bad thing. That's horseshit. That's horseshit. If I am doing the realistic answer that I have is I am a busy human being. And I only have so much time to plan for so many different things. And I wonder, and this is no shade on the min DMs that I know, but I wonder how much of it has to do with the fact that in addition to working 2 jobs and a master's program, which is busy, and playing in games and streaming and DMing, I'm also a wife and a mom. And even though my husband is a house husband, which everybody should get, they're totally worth investing in. It There is a lot that falls on us. And so I don't have a lot of time to plan. And what I plan is what's going to happen. It doesn't actually matter whether you choose the left door or the right door. The same thing is going to happen in either one of those doors. Like this illusion of choice where you guys still feel like you have a lot of agency, but at the end of the day, this same thing was like going to happen. The other thing, and going back to consent, is I'm very honest with my players. Hey, you guys, I'm really busy. I know you guys are thinking about this, but we just did this. Like when we were going to Wyvern Tor, in our campaign, you guys were like, oh, maybe we should go chase Glassstaff into the fields and maybe we should do this. And I just, before the game started, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is what I was able to prepare. And you guys went, okay. And in character, you guys just bought along with that. And I think that that is partially because you and I are like theater kids, right? We have that background of the yes and that idea that we are telling a story together. I'm not against you. And I think maybe that's the other thing that's different about me as a DM. A lot of DMs are like that though. Like, do you find you're like that as a storyteller where you're like, we are telling a collaborative story together and I'm not going to overrule you and you're not going to overrule me. We got to do this together or it's not fun? Or are you like, here's my story? Not that there's anything wrong with either one, but are you like, here's my story, here's what we're doing?
I would say, especially for something like London's, it's been very collaborative because I wanted to do a laser focus on the characters and their internal lives and personal relationships. Because I feel like sometimes in Vampire, it gets so caught up in the political intrigue and espionage and like supernatural, like huge stakes that I wanted to size it down to see what's going on in the individual lives. So that by nature had to be collaborative because I was tailoring so much, and I do still, to the PCs. And I'm like, we've had like whole episodes where we don't do my plot or whatever. We just do something related to the PC's story. So I would say in something like that, it's collaborative, but I think I also am a type of person like, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, these are the things. And I'm a person that likes structure. So I, as a player, like when my GM is like, okay, now we're going, like, when you were like, this is what we have to do. I kind of like to be led. A game that's like a big sandbox in terms of a TTRPG, I don't know that that's really my style to GM, especially. Maybe to play, but I like something. I like a structure. You know what I'm saying?
I need that endorphin hit of being like, I've checked off the next achievement unlocked. I'm at the next stage in the video game. Point. I know where I'm going. Hey, look at my DM smile because I've made the right choice. Like, that to me, that fuels me. That will keep me going.
Me too. So true.
Yeah. And so I appreciate like that very forthright and honest communication from DMs that I play with. And I've been very fortunate that I get a lot of that, but I also sometimes have to advocate for it. I have to be like, especially because I'm neurodivergent, sometimes I have to say, hey, this might not be the character being obtuse. As a human, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you just tell me what the situation is here? Like, and break that fourth wall because yeah, we are trying to be entertaining. Like, ultimately we are streamers. And so we're trying to be entertaining, but also the thing that I hate the most when I'm watching other streams is when it's really clear that everybody knows that together they have like the sum of the parts to be successful, but they don't like each other and they don't like playing together. Like that anti-chemistry, really, I would rather watch people literally just play around their table and somebody just record it than watch people who don't like each other and who are antagonistic to each other. I can't watch those games.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, we have 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, this hour went super so fast. Because you're amazing. You're like so easy to talk to.
Aw.
Here's my last question for you. Who are other inspiring players or play styles that like you want to incorporate more, or some shout outs that you want to give?
Great. The first person that comes to mind is Prince, aka Dimples and Dice, who's on cast with me in Vancouver by Night. He is never, ever afraid to take a risk as a player or a storyteller, to stir the pot, to throw in something unexpected, to yes and always. Like, he's such a great scene partner, and I just really respect like the spontaneous things that he does in game to make things entertaining. And I hope to channel some of that into my own playing and GMing, because he's similarly like storytelling and GMing and playing also.
Right.
And I also just I really admire his work ethic. Who else? I really play with so many great people. I really like Nikki's style in our game.
Yeah.
As Denny, the tiefling bard.
Yeah.
There's just there's a confidence, there's a comfort in the way that she portrays the character. You can tell she's thought a lot about the background and is constantly dropping really nice little nuggets of how the character has grown up and what they have been interested in the past. And I was totally here for the Denny lore drop when I was away, and I watched that episode. It was really good. So Nikki has a style that I really like. It just seems very, I don't know, it seems very like effortless.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems effortless. And I very much admired that, because I do think, despite all these kind of theatrical things that I do, I can be a bit inhibited as a person, like afraid to sort of take a risk and and constantly having this like kind of tightness about me. So yeah, Nikki, Prince, those are the first two.
Yeah, that's fair. And I didn't tell you that this question was coming, so I wasn't trying to gotcha. I just had written it down earlier today, because you have been around the TTRPG community and you know so many people. I was just curious to see. Okay, so wrap this up for us. Tell us again where people can find you, all the amazing things you're doing, what you want people to know. It's your last few minutes of the show.
Great. So you can find me on Twitter at MCDiabeats. That's where I usually post the TTRPG products that I'm in. Creative partner Martlet Games, that has been said. So I encourage you to follow them on Patreon, Twitter, Facebook. We have a lot of stuff in production right now. So like you're going to see a bunch of stuff like kind of get ready to come out at once. On Vancouver by Night on Saturdays, I'm part of the Saturday Vampire Takeover with Vancouver by Night Delve into Darkness, which begins at 6 p.m. for the Eastern babies like me. And then on Sunday in Phandalin By Night, the D&D campaign that we've talked about, that is at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. That is really doing some great stuff. Yeah, peep the poster, so cool. I'd really appreciate if you came. Oh, I didn't see that yet. That's cool. I'd love to see you come out for this Vampire Saturday Takeover, because it is sort of this big determination about my character being Prince. I think it's going to be really fun and entertaining for everybody. I'm also the manager of editing and quality assurance at Mondo Cane Publishing, which is a TTRPG development company that's just sort of starting up. So please follow them, Mondo Cane, on Twitter and all the social media, because there's going to be stuff coming out there soon. And I'm really excited to get back into the background a little bit, which is writing, which is what I love to do ultimately. So I'd love if you check out their stuff. You will be able to see me in less than 2 hours on the Martlet Game channel for the finale of the Ghouls Night Vampire the Masquerade game, where all of the player characters are ghouls and not vampires.
Amazing.
So that is great. I can't wait. So maybe pop over to Martlet at 9:30 Eastern for the Ghouls Night game. And then, February 27th, the Jasper's Game Day charity streams on Vancouver by Night. I will be in one of those games. And it's going to be a real fun time, and it's for a great cause. I think that is pretty much it for me and my plugs.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming and being here. Thank you to everybody in chat. You guys seriously. With the subscriptions, like what? You guys are crazy, and the follows, and thank you for all of that and the amazing conversation. And I'm not going to validate the Tremere hate because I'm neutral.
You hate us until you need us. That's all I'm going to say. When you need your house warded against ghosts and werewolves and vampires, who are you calling? But the Tremere.
Get in the comments. This is like a Brendan Lee Mulligan
the...
moment. Get in the comments. I don't know, Sarah, if you're looking at the Twitch, if you can see the shelf above your head.
Oh yeah.
I do these every week for
So
the
good.
specific people, and the one that I have there is like a green makeup brush and like a makeup
Little...
sponge and green face paint
I even have
because
one.
you do so good with your makeup for all of your characters. Jude looks so intimidating every week, but Grahja with the tusks will always be my little favorite.
So cute.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to everybody who was here. Go check Sara out in a couple of hours over on the Martlet Games channel, and everybody better be watching Saturday, the Delve into Darkness campaign. We're so excited. The prince. Do you actually, Steve should actually send you a crown. I'm calling it here. Steve.
I want one.
Everybody get in Vancouver by Night's comments. We want a physical crown prop being made. Yeah, Joe is in the comments. We love it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Sara, for being my guest. This has been amazing.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I love talking to you, and thank you for being such a great D&D DM as well.
Look, I love doing that for you. So thanks so much, and we will see you all. He says a crown would be a masquerade breach. Not if it was only worn.
I'll just wear it at Elysium. It's fine.
A tiara.
I won't wear it on the street.
Not in Vancouver. You live in Vancouver. People wear crazy stuff. Anyway, we're going to go. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We will see you guys later.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.